liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to our meeting. The next thing on the agenda are the minutes for January 8th, last meeting. And I thought they were, Jessica does a great job.
Yeah.
She did good.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of January 8th, 2025.
Second.
So the motion by Chris, second by Ed to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All those in favor?
This is Mark. I vote yes.
Yeah. Greetings, Mark.
I'm working on my video link. Hold on.
Well, that's all right. We don't have the TV. We just have the computer, so.
Okay, that's probably why I don't have any video.
There you go.
There you go.
The TV's not working right, so you have this stuff and the speakers aren't working.
Anybody in the audience have a spare pen?
I do.
No, Chris has got one.
Chris has one.
There's a fee.
A fee?
Yeah.
There you
Rental,
are, Mark.
pen rental.
Thank you.
So Joe is on here too.
But I don't think that's,
Not different.
I think it's a different. Joe.
Is that one of our Joes
I
or?
think that's a different Joe. Because he usually calls in. Phone as opposed to computer.
Department reports.
Well, I guess that leaves you.
Want a code officer report? I don't have one. Been 4 years since you had one.
We had one once.
All right. We ready?
It's yours.
Floor is yours.
Where's your podium? Oh, it's back here.
Oh, really? I gotta have everything on my lap. Just an update, Lieutenant Westling, real good spirits. He's eager to, get out of where he's at right now. They're planning on moving him tomorrow to a rehab center. And he's looking forward to that move. We had a benefit for him at the Monmouth fishing game on Sunday afternoon. We had over 200 people in attendance. And we raised right around the area of $11,000 for him on Sunday. As you know, today I swore Olivia Mora in as acting sergeant to assist me with paperwork and scheduling. We are going to be shorthanded very soon, more than we already are. And we swore in Jared Gray as a reserve officer today as well. And he'll be able to help us out on covering shifts on the weekend, because that's a full-time job, Monday through Friday, but so looking forward to that help in the near future, once we get him up and going. That's pretty much my report for tonight. Unless Donna can think of anything I missed. Donna was astounding organizing this event on Sunday, and it wouldn't have happened without her, and I appreciate all she did.
I'm sorry, she does all your organizing.
Unity night out.
She needed very little guidance from me. Anything I said didn't work.
happen anyway.
What do you want?
Yours? Yes.
Thank you. Select board reports.
We had a Trails Committee meeting this week. Progress on preparing our application for a grant has been made. Some Looks like the Trails Committee is going to be asking for funding for the trail that goes, it will go from the RSU2 parking lot down here in the fields. Actually, around the field, there'll be sort of a very level spot that goes around the field. And then following the old cross-country trail, part of it's going to be on the snowmobile trail down behind both schools. It'll come and touch on Catherine Ludwig's property. Won't go there, but it'll touch there. And then kind of loop back around. We've had a consultant sort of work with us a little bit to make sure that we're following all the pointers and rules and recommendations that would qualify us for state funding. The application's probably gonna be for something on the order of $200,000 to $250,000. It'll have some matching requirements in there, but a lot of the matching has already been done by our funding of the study.
So it will be paved.
Not paved, but certainly a multi-use, no vehicles, but skiing, snowshoeing. Part of it's gonna be snowmobiling, walking, wheelchair accessible. And that's the expensive part. There's some board walking that needs to be done over some wet spots that probably aren't issues for snowmobiles because things get frozen up, but they would be for people who are walking. So that's where a lot of the expense comes in, is getting the trail dry and solid so that someone could, with any kind of mobility concern, could still navigate the trail. So there's a lot of, they call it turnpiking. It's not really turnpiking, but it's bringing in crushed stone and a base and gravel to make sure that it's walkable 100% of the time. Anyway, we're at the rough draft stage of the application, and I imagine before we send something out, someone from the committee will come and present to us, just so we're in the loop. RSU2's been kept in the loop. Actually, I'm gonna come talk to the code enforcement, Andy person, to make sure that there aren't any surprises there. I don't imagine there would be. We've already sort of reached out to IFW and DEP and a couple of other state agencies that might need to express an opinion. Oh, there's historic preservation people, make sure there's nothing. I mean, when you start using state money, you have to make sure that there's nothing that's gonna complicate your project, so there's some of that. By the way, somehow our meeting didn't make the town calendar. I apologize for it not being there. I'm not sure where the ball got dropped, but we'll make sure that it does the next time.
Sanborn.
Just a quick question, what's the total, like if you did the loop?
Yeah, somewhere between a mile and 2 miles.
Yeah, that's why Chris Bryant said today during our age-friendly meeting,
What'd he say?
right around 2 miles.
2 miles.
Is that what we want this summer?
Yeah, close to it, not, they moved it around a little bit to try and minimize the amount of disruption.
You couldn't walk that far.
So progress.
Anything else?
The only thing that I wanted to mention is that at the age-friendly meeting today, Mary Beth has coordinated with the DOT rep that does the, I'm gonna not say the name of the program, but he
Safe
does.
driving.
Yes, safe
Safe
driving
driving.
program. And they're gonna do an event with him speaking at Compton on Saturday, March 29th. I don't know the time yet, but I'm sure we're gonna have it in a lot of places so that, it's a nice program that talks about safe driving and how you work to make sure that you're a safe driver as you get older and what it means when you might not be a safe driver anymore. And some of us that happens to sooner than later. Or they never were a safe driver to begin with, so. I wasn't insinuating you, sorry, but I just thought that that program was, really something nice that
It's
they're.
called mature driving.
I'm not, I'd have to look at Mary Beth's email and go back and find out what it's actually called and
So is
what
it,
that program
can
is.
you let us know? 'Cause it's a timely event for my house.
Yeah, I think it's really,
I don't want to
interesting,
face that.
so, no, none of us do, but, I think
It's coming
that,
too soon.
it's, a really interesting topic. One person had previously commented about, the fact that they had used this program personally for their father. And the woman came to the house and did an assessment of her father and then took him out driving. And because it was coming from a third party, it was a lot easier than somebody in the family doing it. And they
Yeah.
have people that do that and come individually, to your home to help with that. So if I can find that, I'll look for it. So,
Your mom?
yeah, it's not an easy thing. We went through it with my grandfather and, the thing was, after he got out of the hospital one time, his car was in the garage. So he stopped driving because he couldn't walk to the garage anymore, not because he wanted to. Didn't want to, he did want to walk to the garage, but he couldn't. So we never had to broach the topic because he just couldn't get out to the garage anymore, so. That's it.
Mark, have any?
No, I have had 0 people stop and see me to tell me there's anything wrong, so I have nothing.
How much snow do you have?
We got nothing. It was like 52 for a high today. We're well south of the snow.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Public comment? You,
Pass some time, some consideration about
That's Jackson.
the codes board, code and ordinance board. Maybe being put together, because the last selectmen's meeting, we would listen to a lot of information about, by expansions, developments, and it just seems like, we're ramping up the, at least from my end of town, we're ramping up the expansion, and it's going on everywhere. There's new houses and so forth, and I'm sure that he can tell you there's lots of houses being built and so forth. It just seems like with all the movement, shouldn't we have more in place? It would be like eventually Paul needs more officers. Well, we need more code to do what needs to be done. I mean, I think maybe a little more oversight. It would seem a little logical. Maybe you have thoughts on the matter.
I think we talked about it, but wait until after the comp plan is done.
Yeah.
Well, it could, if we could keep it in mind and
Yeah.
not forget it, that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking any big movement right now.
No, and when we started talking about that, because we actually said to put in the comp plan.
You said-
Zoning, I used the Z word, I said zoning, and, because it had never been in there before, and this time it will be in there. And I think that
Baby
that's
steps.
one of those things that we have to start thinking about that process, because, as people may or may not know, but I don't believe there's any dairy cows at Smith's anymore,
I
so.
heard.
So, what's gonna happen is, are those fields gonna stay? And fields. And I kind of had this discussion with Justin about what, Turner had put in place and also Auburn put in place, zoning that didn't allow people to build in those places, because you get out of Auburn and it's still country. And I think that, if we're gonna maintain that, we're gonna have to seriously start looking at that. Like Justin had said during that meeting, I brought up zoning about if you wanna know what zoning, not having zoning does, look at Western Avenue, look at Augusta, because they didn't have zoning for so long. They were like the last city to ever
And
adopt.
we started, we have a growth area, which really is zoning. If you can label the growth area a zone,
Yeah,
because we've designated it as a growth area. It is part of zoning, so we've already started touching it, but it needs to be expanded at some point.
yeah,
And that's why we wanna wait until the comp plan is approved, because it's got that word in it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we wanna make sure that we're all on the same page in this town.
We're gonna hang on to the characteristic that we hear so often, the quality people moving for, they say the rural character.
yes,
Well, that's fast being eroded without controls. So we want to maintain that claim to fame, then I think we need to put some safety gaps.
yeah.
We have a great first paragraph of that document that explains that. So, to keep the character. We made sure that the whole plan started off that way.
So I found the email. It's called the Maine Mature Driver Program. And his name is, the team is Dr. Tom Yauser. And then Heather Shields is an occupational therapist and certified driver rehabilitation specialist. And, so that's the name of the program. So they do a presentation and a workshop. And I can forward this email to you, Kent, so you'll have that
Super.
contact information. Okay.
No public comment, other than you.
I have one more comment. I was disappointed to learn, I believe I have the facts straight. So talking with a developer that was here last, Joe Crow.
Yeah, well,
So he seemed like a very organized individual and worked, his T's crossed, his I's dotted. And the project from amateurs seems to be, and I hear from other people it's being done well. But I also understand for people that are really delving into the nuts and bolts of the requirements, because there's market value and there's also subsidized homes there. And I don't know if it's all of them, but some of them are required to have, well, I guess maybe all of them are required to have possibly no fossil fuel heating. I just thought that was a little limited. I mean, if we're gonna support something like that, I thought that was a little handcuffed. So I just want to mention that there's a lot of details, and as interest came from all the conversation last week, I've talked to some people about it, and people that are much more adept at researching these kind of contracts and developments, and they're starting to tear them apart a little bit. They go, did you know that it's gonna have electric car posts, it's required to have electric plug-ins? Well, maybe someone doesn't want it on their property, I don't know. If you have to have something that's not fossil fuel, well, maybe they wanted fossil fuel. I just thought it sounded a little restrictive. I just want to put that out, that there's a lot of detail when these folks walk in, and one evening probably couldn't dissect it all.
did you check on it? Joe Crow, yeah. No, I saw some posting on it. I thought you really wanted to see what the accuracy of what maybe,
I mean, the reality of it is, if people don't want a house that doesn't have fossil fuels, they won't buy it. You're
Well,
gonna
but
get
the-
people that want to be semi off the grid and not relying on fossil fuels, are the ones that are gonna buy the electric capabilities and not.
Well, my feeling is, it's where the board of selectmen sort of gave the let's keep moving forward on behalf of all of us. And this, I'm not sure that I wouldn't have stopped it because of that. I'm just saying, there's some things that would have set me back a little bit. I think we need to look at these things a little closer. Because there's an awful lot of detail in them, and the more you read about them, the more complicated and complex they get. They're really deep. So, what else is in there that we don't know about and haven't discovered yet? Tip of the iceberg.
And it was my understanding, it wasn't all those houses going in that were gonna be like that, it was just
Could be
half a dozen of them that were
have to
to
be
meet
that way.
to meet the grant. that they were
Right.
getting.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just an observation, a lot of detail on these things.
Lots of progression. Moving forward. Thanks for
Yes.
Don't always have to say yes. True, just 'cause someone's asked.
Electric heat. Popular and then electricity. Pellet stoves. So.
Yeah, pellet stove is not a fossil fuel thing.
No, I think she's saying
I'm
the cycle of
It's the
things.
cycle of things that, electric heat, pellet stove,
I don't know.
outdoor wood burning.
I think we all need to realize that what our pay grade is here.
Yeah.
And it's either a yes or a no. It's not like, I wish I could have this off the list of the menu, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So either we take the standards offered by Maine Housing, which is a much larger organization, or we don't, and we say no to affordable housing in Monmouth.
We don't want to do that right now because we need housing, but. Point is, coming back to it, is there's a lot of detail, and you might come across some development that has enough of it that you don't like. It's amazing to me, the more you get into it, the more you talk to people, the more you learn. There's a lot going on in a short little space.
Well, true. And every time we say yes to whatever, we're also accepting the way things are, which is the universal building code, which is got a whole bunch of, I would use much stronger language than that if I weren't on record, a whole bunch of stupid requirements that are written by an industry full of lawyers and corporate interests because they want to sell their products to home builders. This is true, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
So we get a yes or a no. That's pretty much it.
Comment, and Tony's not here tonight, but, some of the neighborhood has people that have lived there for a while talk, and they'd like to look at getting the speed limit lowered in that vicinity. So we're hoping for some support and guidance from you folks, and
Yeah.
you'll stand behind us and try and reach that endeavor.
I'm always for lowering the speed limit in places, but as we've attempted on Maple Street many times, when it's a state road, it's pretty much,
There must be some,
There are some roads, actually, I heard the interest here on Academy Road, because it's, going past schools and we've got kids. And I can remember the stories in the 1980s where we're walking on the road so that we could avoid the snowbank and people are going by with snowplow blades and, not the world's most safe condition. Anyway, it seems to me like Academy Road is a pretty good candidate because it's a town road and because we have our own police force to be able to more carefully enforce a speed limit that the select board would get to determine. I don't know, is it determined by the select board or do we need to go to the voters?
We have to go to the DOT.
DOT.
Even for Academy Road?
Yes.
Well, I remember we
We
were,
have to do it.
When we
have to
met-
do a Speed study.
Are you serious? Even for Academy Road?
we were meeting down at the town office. My wife brought in maps. Like you maybe.
Oh, yeah, we remember.
Yeah. She was arguing for speed reduction for Academy Road. And we didn't get it, of course. Still 40 way up, beyond until you get to right near our house, when here it's the 30, which means they maybe bring their speed limit down to maybe
45.
50
40
to 50.
when they go by us.
Yeah.
We're looking for 32, David. I'm done.
32?
Dave's your brother. 30. As well.
30.
I mean,
Oh, on Main Street?
yeah.
Yes, Main Street, anything in the area, because you have the turnpike now exchange, which has increased the traffic. More and more people, you know, our population's grown a little bit. So we're seeing more and more traffic over the years, and it goes back for years, we watch an increase in it. But they joked about it at my mother's funeral in her eulogy in '94, how she had to rip out of there in the dirt and the rocks. So that was a big joke in her funeral about that, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. I mean, I have to wait to turn in my driveway to leave. Tonight I did had to do that to come here, you know, how here they come.
Yeah.
Not that many years ago, it wasn't like that. So it's an increase, an understandable increase. So we need to adjust the speed limits to that as a result of it, the traffic volume.
What's the speed limit there now?
45.
Well, I think automobile manufacturers need to go back to the more stiff suspension, like the old cars had, instead of being so smooth.
Can we put speed bumps on Academy Road?
Tony might not like the speed bumps. What are they
Speed
called now?
humps? We can put humps there, can't we? We get to determine the surface of the road, don't we?
But whether it's a state aid road or not, might we get some advice from Tony to see what his thoughts are? He's been
Yeah,
around the
or
block a few
if-
times.
And what's your experience with that?
We just did the Rambler Road in Winthrop, and anybody knows the Rambler Road, it's just dead end road that goes up the hill to 2 schools. That was just transferred over to the town, from the school to the town, so it's a town maintained road now. And we had to have a DOT study. Number one, to see if we could accept the road. Number two, to determine what the equitable speed would be on that road. We all know it shouldn't be over 25, but that's not what DOT said. 35. And
Going to school, yeah.
with the flashing warning lights in the morning, in the afternoon. But anybody who's been out through there, the speed limit now through the high school parking lot is 25 miles an hour. Well, anybody knows 25 miles an hour through that parking lot is about 15 miles an hour too fast.
And we also know that 25 miles an hour to any teenager means minimum 35. Having said
So
that,
that's some of the things we run up against, and I would almost guarantee that they will not reduce it. But it's worth a try.
well, I would suggest two things, and we can, as a select board, we can ask. I would also suggest that you talk to your state representative, because he's the person who either votes or doesn't for their budget.
I remember when my wife did the presentation, the town manager, he wrote a letter to the DOT and that we, as a select board, had recommended the speed limit be lowered. And I remember them coming out and running radar and sitting down here with the salt shed and other places on the road. I guess seeing how fast cars would go. And then that has some way to determines what they set the speed limit at. I guess.
That would be a great way to follow, is if we get a similar letter, or at least consider it right now, talk to Justin and tell him, see if that's an option.
Could we also ask Justin, how he made out with the speed study for the Main Street 202 intersection?
He's coming, by the way, he's on his way.
He's on his way.
As soon as he,
When he gets here, we'll ask him.
yes, yep, but I'm making a note.
I have one.
So,
Sorry.
yes,
Speaking
ma'am.
of speed limits, I saw what they posted for the railroad. going through town, increasing it to going 45,
40.
40.
40.
That's different.
I was out, just a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, I was down there and the train came through. And it wasn't going 40. It was,
What's the date that's supposed to happen?
It's the 17th. It was the 17th,
January 17th.
January.
Yeah, and it's speed, it doesn't mean that just because they wanna come through at 40, they're not always gonna come through at 40. Just allow them to come.
Up to.
Do you have concerns about that? I guess is my question. We don't have bars.
Yeah, and that is, from what I understand through CSX is that they have put $35 million aside to deal with crossing gates, throughout the state of Maine. So we may not have one now, but there may be one planned for the future.
And that
I
would
would
be
say
Berry
just don't
Road.
challenge.
Yeah.
Don't challenge the red lines.
No,
Yeah,
no, I mean,
it's not a fight you can win.
I'm not one that does that, but I just was curious.
Because
And
if the
where
lights
you're-
don't stop on that little piece of
Wood's not
wood's not
gonna.
gonna leave
you know, there's usually a bell that rings,
it.
but there was no bell.
Really?
In fact, I only realized the train was coming when he blew his horn.
So,
I think they need that class.
Mature driving program.
Exactly.
So I was just curious where they increased it out toward
There's all-
Winthrop too,
yes,
and it's,
I just got, an email today that they just notified Lincoln, the same thing, that they're increasing their speed right up through, so. Yeah, obviously, it's always a concern, when you have a train going through our communities at 40.
One at 10 o'clock is faster.
depends on who's driving, I guess.
AM or PM?
Yeah.
PM, oh yeah.
The only thing we wondered about that was whether or not they had to blow their whistle sooner, but those, granite posts are when they're supposed to blow their whistle, but they can't move the granite post, but you're going faster, so if it takes you longer to stop, are you supposed to blow your whistle soon? I don't know.
Bet you'd have to move them because it says right on those granite post 25.
That's right, it does.
It seems like back in November and December, about 50% of the time when the lights were flashing, there was no train coming.
Exactly, yeah.
So they better make sure they take good care of those and get them functioning, because people are used to driving across knowing that the lights are flashing, but they flash every day and nothing comes. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a maintenance thing for them. They better get it figured out, because people are used to driving across when the lights were flashing, because there's never a train coming.
parents won't.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
We want to start.
We got one here, he can.
I
He's first on the
can
list.
talk to the fire department too, just
Sure.
cut them about $60,000, get it me for my cruiser.
Exactly.
Do the stuff that's changed.
Right, so the 317016, which is the overtime line, that is going to increase based on where our new union contract lands, but it'll be roughly in this area. That overtime is based on, vacation time the officers get backfilling their shifts, the holidays, 13 and a half holidays, those holidays account for the biggest part of that budget, which is $21,500 just for covering those 13 and a half holidays. And then I've built in 24 hours a month, OT to cover, vacation time. So that's pretty much where that stands. Next line is the officer, the full-time line. Full-time wages. And that's, again, it's 4.8% increase, and that is based on, I adjusted everybody's wage for these figures at 5% back in December, not knowing where we're gonna end up with the contract, so that will probably go up a little bit more, probably up to 5.5%, 6%. And depending on when Dana comes back, if he comes back this year at all, and then or being able to hire another full-time position, cover Zach's position, when that happens. So there'll be some flexibility in that line. And let's see. Next line is part-time wages. See, that goes up about $900, and those cover reserve officers, covers Donna's hours, it covers our janitor. That you'll see that actually about a little less than 3% increase. And we have some minor adjustments, going down through. And when I put these figures together, I was told that, you guys may be looking at wanting us to reduce our budgets by 3 to 5%. So that's why I went through and I cut some of these lines just to try to get as close to even as possible. And ended up overall with a 2.7 budget, but am I happy with the figures I'm presenting you tonight? No, they scare me. But trying to manage that goal, it is what it is, and I'll work to get it as close to a zero budget as I can, but whether I can live within these numbers is the next thing, to be 100% honest with you. At the cruiser maintenance line from 13,000 down to 11,000, and if we end up getting 2 new cruisers, that may be an accurate figure. But if we only get one cruiser this year, if we don't get any cruisers this year, I will not hit that $11,000 goal. I can guarantee you that. I've got one cruiser with 70-something thousand, another cruiser with 110,000, and I have a third cruiser with 178,000 miles. So that's the reality of that. If we don't get the cars we need, then I won't be able to maintain what we have left for $11,000. Not at the price it is to repair them. I cut the repair and maintenance computer from 5,500 down to 5,000. Dawn has been using most of that up lately. Her computers have been problematic. Repair and maintenance equipment. I left that the same at 1,800. Go down through,
How did you manage to cut the water 50%? Are you gonna only flush like every third time? I'm just wondering.
if it's yellow, let it mellow.
See, I do have a request, Chief, and this probably should be something that we talk to Justin about. You just happen to be the first department head here. Could we get some fresh numbers on, speaking of fresh, on electricity and heat for fiscal year 2025? Because they're not reported yet.
Right.
So we don't really know how much we're spending in the current fiscal year. And until we do, then it's hard for us to say. You know, the basic argument that I've heard from a lot of people is like, hey, these prices are gonna come down now, or at least they're gonna level off. And I noticed that, you know, in 2024 to 2025, there was a substantial increase in both of those.
Yeah, and I kept mine right at the same on the electricity at 32.26.
Yeah, oh, I see that. But also take note that there's
Increases.
increases between 2024 and what was budgeted for 25.
The sewer line, I kept the same 800. Telephone, 97.20, I kept that the same because it's some contractual issues there that obligations. Training, I reduced the training budget. At $400 from 7,400 down to 7,000. And let's see, I kept the ammunition line the same. Heating oil at 1850. That's the same. We've been pretty consistent with that line. Past couple of years.
Which line is this?
Heating oil, 7,200.
Wait, my coat in the office, not a problem.
It'd be helpful if we could figure out what we spent in 2025 on that. And that would be across the board too. I know, you know, when we get to Cumston Hall and we start looking at electricity and heat, there's gonna be a fluctuation there for the positive.
Yeah, for the positive.
And to speak openly and honestly, it's very hard to manage your budget when you can't get budget to actuals.
That's why this is a Justin question and perhaps not a department head question. Right? I mean, we can't make an informed decision as a select board without
I dropped
this
the,
year's numbers.
I dropped the vehicle fuel line. Cause I 20,625 to 20,000. Just transfer that line out at the end of the year to cover the public works. Yeah. The other ones we paid for. I do that diplomatically.
Yes, you did.
Thank you. And I dropped the uniform allowance line from 5,485 down to 5,000. And again, like I said, I'm not comfortable with these numbers, but I will live with them.
Yeah, and another fresh number that we need to plug in here is the number for ambulance services. for 2025, the actual number for 2025. Because you can see 2024, our budget was 112,975. I'm sorry, our actual was 112,975. We budgeted 80. So then the question is, where are we? That's a pretty big swing.
And, just to let you know that, there will be a letter going out to all our service communities that we dispatch for, explaining a different method of coming to the amount that we're going to be billing the communities that we dispatch for. We're going based on per capita, but there's also gonna be a $5,000 flat fee assessed to all communities that we dispatch for. And that's in a discussion phase with our town manager and with the council. And this is going to be part of that assessed fee for the community, the $2.5 million communication upgrade that we're going to better provide services to the communities that we dispatch.
How many communities this went to pay? I was not aware of that.
Sorry?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that, the number that you had last year, I think was around 68,500 we had to dispatch services. We had plugged in for the 24-25 budget year.
25. This is for dispatcher?
Yeah. Yeah, falls under the public safety.
Yeah. Yeah, something along those lines, yeah. I don't have last year's number. I don't have the sheet that you guys said don't.
So last year it was 68,525.84 is what was asked for the dispatch costs, and that could go up to 5,000 if the council approves that flat fee formula.
So is that is not yet reflected in the fiscal 2025 budget and would be in addition to that figure?
Well, what will be figured in under the, I don't know what the Justin's Club numbers in, because he didn't have them.
I don't have them yet.
So last year, Bond paid was the 68,525.
And that falls under
Falls under
39,7,229 in the fiscal year 25 budget?
falls under the public safety line, whatever that is. Ambulance,
Dispatch, hydrant.
dispatch, hydrant.
Yeah, he's reading this.
We don't have any
Yeah,
of
so
those.
that highlighted area hasn't been filled in yet for 25 on
For 26.
25, 26, yeah.
But you can see the 53,332 in the next column is the actual
That's what you
2025.
spent so far.
And then the fiscal year, the next column over is the budget for 2025 fiscal year. And the 60,000 and change that you're referring to falls
68,525.
within that
They-
$87,000
Assuming
figure.
that the 87 that was plugged in here also covered the 911 services that we paid to Androscoggin.
That's correct. Yeah, there's two parts to it. Okay. We have to pay the PSAP, right? That's what they call it. Androscoggin too. So that's like 19 or
19,000.
it's the two together.
So you're saying that a subsection of that $87,000 figure for 2025 is going up by $5,000.
Yes.
And the,
Has the potential.
and the ambulance service is gonna be different this year too. I'm waiting. Winthrop is redoing the allocation method for that. So they're going to, instead of it being purely on population, they're gonna do population in, is gonna be a subset of that number, but it's also going to be a 3-year average of your call volume. So they're gonna look back 3 years, and they're gonna see which communities are generating the most use. It's basically, my understanding, talking to Anthony, the manager over there, is they're trying to copy essentially what Gardner just changed their service
It's the
to.
Gardner model.
It's the Gardner model. So it's what they're doing for the Gardner communities. They're trying to copy it because they've seen some success on getting the number to be more reflective of the usage versus just population.
Does it include something to do with, the ones that don't get, the calls that don't get paid for? I think we, a few years ago, that was,
I think there may be a component to the billing too, but I'm not positive. He sent the Gardner model, so I can see how the Gardner communities are all doing, but they're still working on the one they're gonna use for Winthrop ambulance. He said he thought he'd have it within a month or so.
I know we're meeting Friday morning. In regards to that.
Okay. So they're working on it. He's already sent sort of a preliminary notice to the Winthrop ambulance communities that they're gonna recalculate that. So I don't know whether that helps or hurts us, to be honest. I have no idea. See.
I know John Davinsky, when he was here, a few years ago, he said this had to be dealt with, and therefore our rescue ambulance bill went up quite a considerable amount that because of that.
Non-reimbursements, yeah.
6% based on the governor's new tax.
It's not a tax. It's a fee.
Yeah.
It's a revenue enhancement.
Yeah, revenue and.
It's an adjustment.
We should figure out some revenue enhancers.
Yeah.
Was it a good concert?
Yes, it was good. I stayed just long enough to see her do her little part and then I skipped the rest of it because it was taking too long. Usually chorus is second, but this time they put them last, so I had to sit through the recorders and, you know, the third graders playing. You know how that is.
We had fluophones. Which I still have. Yeah, I still have my fluophone.
Chinese music?
Are there any other questions on the?
Justin, it's one for you. I think you might have just been coming into the room.
Okay, sure.
The one question, and this I think is going to apply to all the departments, which is, can we get some, before we finalize the budget plan, can we get some more accurate and recent heat and electricity figures into the spreadsheets so we can see exactly what our actuals are for this fiscal year?
Yeah,
Because there's been a lot of movement up and down on both counts. Yeah, we had a pretty mild winter last year. Probably take that into account. Not so mild this year, as we can all see, with 12 inches of black ice. But, you know, things are changing. Prices of things are changing.
right. Our oil costs didn't change much from last year. We locked into a price that was very comparable to what we were paying last year per gallon. I won't have any idea, you know, what the market will do until sometime next summer. So we try to take a stab at usage and then put some type of small accelerator on it to try to buffer in case fuel prices go up.
Sure.
But like the chief probably said, we went in today to take a look and the only thing that was in the folder was up to October 31st. So I have a call into Jessica to get the numbers posted so I can see them through December for your next meeting. So I'm hopeful that I can have more accurate budget to actuals through at least December for your next meeting, so we'll work on
And
that.
it's fine if you want to base it on usage and not prices, you know, if you
Yeah.
want to assume the prices are going to be basically the same, but if we can figure out what the usage is, might change.
Sure,
In particular with Compton Hall, with the upgrades to the infrastructure there.
yeah,
There's probably going to be some opportunity to the positive side here.
yeah, sure. Yeah, like the electricity will go up, but the fuel oil should come down. I'm not sure. I don't recall if I ever looked at it in a while. I don't know what. I don't know if Dennis tried to take a stab at that or if he just kind of, looks like he kind of left it because I think we talked about this and we were going to try to. We can make some guesses based on the information, but we wanted to make sure that you folks were comfortable with. Obviously, if we take it out and then we use, slightly more than we sort of anticipated, we need to make sure there's enough in there, not having any experience on
Right.
what it's gonna do. It's kind of a guess, so it'll be your comfort level on how aggressive you want to be on.
Obviously, when Buffalo comes to that, I'd rather keep it there and have a year of, a winter, a new system, and then be able to
See how it
see
goes,
how
yeah.
it goes.
But I'm sure we can get rid of some of it,
Yeah.
certainly, because it should cut down significantly, in the thousands of gallons a year, so we should be able to, very comfortably, you could take 25% of that out of the heating fuel line, I think. And
Yeah.
still have plenty.
Exactly.
And of course, the two police cruisers that are in question will be part of our capital plan, so we can defer.
Correct, we'll bring sort of, from a staff perspective, a final draft to you at your March 5th meeting, which is the meeting before the public hearing. So that'll be kind of when you have to make your choices for what you kind of want to put out there for the public hearing, which will be the following meeting after that, and then you sign the warrant in April.
And have we heard anything from the insurance company about the total police cruiser?
Yeah. Everything, all the equipment, everything has been written off. I'm providing them with a list and costs on everything that was in that car. When it's all said and done, they'll be paying about, giving us checks for about $48,000-$50,000. So we have to come up with the difference.
Which is essentially the depreciation of the car since we.
Yes, because it's 3 years old. So we're gonna have to come up with roughly somewhere between $19,000 and $21,000 to replace that car. And then we got, I was telling Justin, do we tack that 21,000 onto the 3-year lease purchase for the new car and then have 2 cars that we don't own for 3 years, or do we pay that 21,000 up front and just own it? And then just finance 1 car? That's all stuff we're gonna have to discuss in CIP to,
Does the 21,000 include the equipment that was written off at one?
yes. Yeah, because they gave us, what did I tell you, 27,500 for the car, and then the rest is equipment.
She's a Sanborn.
Insurance will, that would come back at the end of the. I would assume his insurance is the
He has the
insurance.
insurance.
Yeah.
We own it.
So kind of the issue
No,
is, right, is it messes up the timing on this stuff, right? Because
yeah,
we had a cruiser in there last year that got voted down, which would have put it into a normal cycle. That got voted down, so then it was kind of pushed to this year, and then we had one get destroyed. So Paul's sort of natural rotation, so we kind of always just had one on the thing is now all screwed up. So that's why he's talking about, should we purchase one so that we only have payments on one, so that then so we can attempt over the next several years to get it back into a cycle because they need to be replaced sort of regularly. And if they're all piled up, then we'll end up repeating this where we have two cars in 1 year again, in a few years, that all have to be replaced at once. So that's kind of the question that I think you'll have to wrestle with when we get to that capital part, is whether we try to, fund that remainder on the insurance all at once so that we don't have kind of two, if you will, two payments or a payment and a half on one that's gonna be due at the same time. Because we'll end up getting two cars that are the same age. So in theory, they'll age out at the same time too.
The accident on the Holmes Road. They had, that didn't destroy the cruiser or?
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, that's why we ended up with that 2016 that we bought off a used car lot. And that's the one that has 178,000 on it.
Your next oldest one has how many, you said, 100 and?
Around 107, 108, it's Kirk's car, and then Olivia's has 72, 73,000 on it.
So they're kind of all gonna pile up on us if we don't do something.
Say, here. With the public works.
Right, yeah, it's the same,
It's the same.
it's the same issue, yeah.
It's only so far you can kick that can down the road until it bites you in the butt, so.
Justin, I may have missed this along the way, but when we do put these cruisers out to the voters, will they be listed as separate articles? Rather than lumped in as one? If they're lumped together and it gets voted no, then we don't get either car. Will they be listed separately for voters?
That's sort of the question that I think that's kind of what we were getting at. We'll have to kind of wrestle with that question about whether that 20,000 is kind of put in there as as kind of a one-time expense to purchase it outright. And then have another question for the lease purchase agreement on the replacement of the one that we, that's not ruined, that needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
Certainly, however you word these things is completely up to you. You folks own the warrant, so you can ask me to draft it in any way that you see fit. It's your document.
If the voters are really big.
You wouldn't do that.
Or no,
The ones that come to the meetings.
we could probably live with them.
And not in the pet.
Yeah.
They don't really do
I want to go back.
Or-
I finished with, I got an answer on the railroad question. My nephew, who is an engineer for Amtrak, but also has the same requirements as CSX. So he said that public roads require, in their thing, it says require at least signs. Some have signs and flashing lights, some have signs, lights, and gates. The FRA, Federal Railroad Association or Act, would determine what each road requires. Speed would definitely be a factor. And then I asked him a question about on this, and he said, I bet if the FRA reviewed ours, it would probably require gates because it's on a blind curve
As it comes.
at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't really required at 25, but at 40, a blind curve becomes much more involved in that question. So
That would be-
federal, so you have to ask Collins to, bring it up at a committee meeting down there.
Really?
I saw on the TV the other morning, I don't know what channel it was, but in Porterville, they're doing the same thing. They had the same map kind of thing that going through there, they're raising the speed limit to 40.
Oh, yeah, they're doing it the whole run. I mean,
Yeah,
it's going through every community. It's doing the same through Belgrade. That's why they've been replacing all the all the crossings on the street was so that they could up the speed. I mean, that was the whole reason they dug that up down there this year.
They
Was so
have
that
to
they could
weld
do
the
this.
rails. They
Yeah.
can't have
Right.
sections of rail, it has to be welded rail. But I'm sure that CSX has some, has to apply for something.
Yeah.
You know, that's maybe why they put so much money aside, because they figured they were gonna get hit with changing crossings. So they already are trying to get ahead of it, but we don't know that.
No.
You know, unless somebody asks the question.
Can we ask the town manager to write Senator Collins a letter and say,
And
could we
see
have
if he can
a
answer.
safety review of the intersection?
Probably be, I would start with writing the authority that actually regulates it first, and if we don't get anywhere, I would go that route. I just think
I
that,
have the email, Ivan, for the CSX contact person who had advised me about the 35 million. I can ask him specifically
Who
about
the next person in line would be if he doesn't know.
Would you mind getting back to us at the next meeting? Awesome.
And also we had another request of you that Chris wrote down.
Yeah. We were talking about speed limits,
Yep.
but these are on state roads. But the speed limit, if you got any information about a speed study for the 202 Main Street intersection.
I haven't, I've sent the request to the local road center, but I haven't heard, I saw the email get forwarded to somebody in DOT engineering or whatever it's called, but I haven't heard from them yet.
Car counter.
Yeah, whatever the group is, it got forwarded along, but I don't know.
Because we were talking about that because, we had a question about the speed on Main Street where the new, housing developments on either side of the hill are going in. If, what the process would be to start ask about changing the speed limit from 45 to 35. Of course, we
Yeah,
all know
so
that.
so Dave probably knows this, but DOT, because it's a state road,
Yeah.
has already signed off on both of those developments being acceptable for that stretch of road. So they're aware that it's there. We can always request a speed study. Ultimately, it's up to DOT. They have their own standards and they put the little counters out there and try to
Yeah.
figure out whether there was an issue. But both of those roads are pretty visible from both directions for quite a ways. I'd be surprised if they lowered the speed limit, but we can certainly ask.
Like to ask.
Yeah.
Actually, this came up at the Trails Committee meeting as well for Academy Road between the intersection down here and the schools. I think,
You mean this way or this way?
the intersection down here
From
on
Main
Main Street, sorry, this,
Yeah,
the
okay,
southern,
this end of it. Okay, yeah.
up through the schools. There was a request where RSU 2 is requiring kids to walk greater distances. There's sidewalks there, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. And it was a thing that came up at one of our Trails Committee. I know, I was a kid, we were dodging plow blades.
I know it's 30.
We had our guns and.
Quick shop all the way to our house.
It's pretty intensely residential. I mean, most residential communities. 25 is kind of the,
The hardest thing was avoiding tan Volkswagen Beetles when they
Yeah.
stalled at stop
Some-
signs.
some people would, might recall, actually, rear-ending others at the intersection of Academy Road and Main Street. I won't say who that might be, but
The car was stalled.
there might have been an incident in the 1980s involving two teenagers.
But it-
Probably the front teenager must have been doing one of those rolling.
No,
stuff.
it's hard to stall. Oh, stall.
I don't know, but
It was-
what we discovered was that the bumper of a 1972 VW Bug was an
And-
expensive thing.
No, the license plate thing that stuck out, I caved that right in with that brown Chevy 3/4 ton pickup truck.
Either set of parents was happy.
I didn't hear about
Oh.
We're long gone, I think.
long gone.
Need to know thing.
You didn't need to know.
We handled it,
Yeah,
we
it's
handled
gonna
it
get
neighbor to
us in
neighbor.
trouble.
I don't even think we called the police that day.
No. We found the-
Are we beyond the statute of limitations for an obligation?
As long as it wasn't a body under the front trunk lid.
In the front, the back, luckily I didn't do anything to the engine of the cars.
We are gonna check
I
out
think
the-
that's-
Yeah, speed stuff.
Yeah, speed studies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we go on to fire.
unless Kent wants to pick on.
Like I said, I can talk to the fire department. I'm taking 21,000 from their budget.
You're the person behind the curtain.
I don't know, there's not a heck of a lot of change in there. I know the chief wanted to he's making some adjustments to the salary line is due to the creation of the deputy chief position, and then it's the general raise being applied to that. So there was 2 assistant chiefs before, and now there's and now there's a deputy chief as well. That's a,
2, 3, 4, and 5. It used to be a 5. So it just bumped down.
right, so so that combined with just the applying the colas to it is the change, and I mean, it's not, so it shows 16%, but when you're talking 40,000, 45, it's not a ton of money, it's just looked, a little bit of money on a small amount is a big percentage.
Even I could figure out that.
Yeah. The rest of it is, there's not really any real initiatives in there.
Not that it's a lot, but what is the travel and mileage? What does that get used? Operating, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I believe that's what that
Oh,
would be,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Calls,
Oh, okay. Yeah, training.
So,
yeah, training,
Yeah, training.
yeah, whatever.
Okay,
each use their own vehicles,
yes,
almost like fire engines in a way.
yes.
So here again, could we get some updated numbers for heat and electricity? So we can make an informed decision, because I know last year we went from $3,900 in fiscal year 2024, from $3,900 in heat to a budget of 6,000, which is unknown at this point for 2025, so we don't know what the usage was. It was pretty gentle winter last winter, not so much right now.
Yeah.
And then same for electricity.
Yeah, the electricity is easy enough because I can recalculate that. We just signed a new contract with the company that we have been using. The Constellation that provides the renewable credits. I know what the percentage increase is on the rates.
There's a lot of stuff on our current warrant. We're heating up for Compton. And electricity.
Yep.
Couple of new computers for the town office.
Is that recreation?
Yeah, those were for rec. Those are essentially tablets so that when people come into the town office, if they're not comfortable using computers at home, that the staff can sort of walk them through registering through the MyRec program online.
That was an awful lot of money.
Yeah, they're expensive because they have to be compatible with the system that we have. So they had to be They had to be Microsoft Surface tablets because they have to be Windows, they have to be Windows 11 or higher. It's really the only option. They basically gave you two versions of computers that you could use or tablet devices that you could use, and that was one of them. So they're pricey. It's just the requirement of the software.
But we have that money.
We had that money in the rec budget anyway, because we added the 70,000 back in for the beach that we didn't use. So we used that excess to buy the equipment this year. Money. And that's up and running, by the way. You've probably seen it on, if you're on Facebook, you see Dennis has been really pushing families to get them. Get everybody signed up. So once you put your family members in there, they're in the system. So when you log in the next time, Johnny and Susie are in there with all their information. You don't have to type it in every time you register. You just click Johnny and you say, I want him to play soccer, and all their information goes with them. It keeps track of their age so that it'll automatically put them in the right groups, and you can pay through the system. And so once you register, it's all in there, and they can also send out, you click the right boxes and you say, I'm interested in basketball every year. You will get a notice when the registration pops up. You'll get an email that says, time to register for basketball. So it should be really good as he keeps collecting more information from the residents that want to participate. We'll have a good database of who plays, wants to use the services that we have, and we can communicate more directly with people that have signed up previously. Should be good once we get it rolling.
You mentioned something in here about the waterfront position.
Yep, it's been advertised. We've had a couple of inquiries from, I asked Lori to reach out directly to colleges around. So like St. Joseph's, Colby, Orono, Thomas, all those places to see if any of them, and she's already had contact from a couple. Somebody from Colby is interested, like one of their swim coaches or something. So we'll see how it's still very early for people that are looking for summer stuff. They're not, -9. They're not thinking about it. It probably hasn't crossed their mind yet that. We'll see how it goes.
So,
Yeah, hopefully by over the next few weeks, I'm hopeful that we can get the the hydrant costs and the ambulance service and the dispatch. I know everybody's working on it. It's still kind of early. It's still January. So I know all those groups are still working through their budgets too, to figure out what it is that they're gonna have to do for costs, but hopefully I can fill in some of these blanks. We ran the reports today. It's not in this particular budget discussion, but in the town-wide budget where all the benefits are. We just ran the reports today to try to start calculating payroll taxes and the paid family medical leave, which we're gonna have to pick up 50% of. Employees will pick up the other 50%. We have to add that to the budget.
Where will that fall? Which department is it gonna fall?
It'll be under the town-wide budget, which on the warrant falls under the admin, if you will. If all the benefits and town office are all in one category. So it'll be in there on the warrant, but it's in the same place as the health insurance and the debt service and the county tax and the school assessments. All that stuff is all in one page. We don't have all those numbers yet because we can't settle on, I can't completely figure out what 1% of paid family medical leave or 1% of payroll taxes or any of that stuff until I figure out what the union contract settles, because that dictates what our payroll is.
you're in the process, like you're negotiating.
Yes. We're waiting to set up another meeting based on your feedback last week.
So the budget to actual stuff, the lag in getting that is just from the accountant that's doing.
I think it's all done. It just wasn't, Chief actually asked for it today and I hadn't even really thought about it, to be honest. And then I went into the folder and it wasn't there. So we called her this afternoon. She apologized, but she needs to run the reports and then post it as a PDF so that I can print it
Oh, okay,
properly.
all right.
So it's probably, I'll probably have it tomorrow, but I can definitely have it by your next meeting. It's not an issue.
So.
it'll probably, by your next meeting, it will probably be through December, maybe she'll have. Yeah, it'll be through then, because she won't have January done until mid-February. So
Yes.
it should be through December 31 for your next meeting.
We got a notice today that the RSU is having a early budget meeting tomorrow night.
In Hollowell.
At the Hollowell.
City Hall.
Is that? Is it early? It seems early.
It would be very preliminary. I'd be very, because they haven't settled their union contract either, and obviously, personnel costs for the school is, that's the elephant in the room.
80%.
Yeah.
So, what union contracts are up for renewal?
For the schools, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just know from his email that he said they're still negotiating. I think he said more than one. He said contracts, so I don't know if it's, but I don't know which ones.
So, there's a lot of them.
Right, his
Teachers, of course.
ed techs, teachers, service workers, bus drivers, yeah. That's why I'm not sure which one.
I think when I saw Rick one day, I think the thing that I mentioned to him, and I actually mentioned it to Harold when I saw Harold at the post office the other day, that my big one is to have the numbers on the piece of paper that people vote on. Because it's just a yes or no box. There's no numbers there because they mail them. And people get those flyers in the mail. I take it and I read it because that's what I do, but how many people just think that's, junk mail, a flyer from someplace because of how it looks? It doesn't look like anything, and you don't ever get it. So you're like, what is this? And you throw it out because you just assume it's the junk. So I think my biggest ask for them is to, as we talk to them or anybody does talk to them, is to have the numbers on the ballot. Because I think that's how people make, as we know, our numbers are there, they have to be there, an informed decision.
That's hard to understand.
But at least have a number on it. There's not even a number of what you're voting on, whether it's $1 or,
What is it, as far as understanding where it's gone from like this year to.
Oh, yes.
to Budget
Next
they're
year,
proposing and all the categories that are there, I think there's about 8 of them.
the information they sent to you is very thorough and I always take it and read it and take little marks on it, but I know that all that information can't be on the ballot, but I think there at least should be a number on there, so. So. Yeah.
Here are the totals. We
I don't
proposed
know.
last year, this is what we proposed this year. Here was our total budget, this is, and this is the number. So, that to me would
Be the ultimate.
be the ultimate,
Yeah.
here's a big number, here's this, this is. Your taxes, they're gonna go up this much.
I think that's an ask, cause I know we all kind of talk to Rick here and there and see the school board members, around, so, I mentioned Harold, so I think it's something that I'd like to see if you guys think the same thing. I think there should be a number on there. It's just, so that if we keep asking for that, perhaps they might come through and do it, so.
It's a tough process for like just playing devil's advocate for a minute for the RSUs, right? Because the way that we have it set up with the RSUs is they essentially have an open town meeting. And then after that's been approved at an open town meeting with the people who are allowed to go and vote, they then have to then put it on the ballot too. So right, so the voters get 2 bites at the RSU budget. With like a municipal
But it
budget, they
doesn't
get
matter
one.
whether we voted up or voted down in our town.
In aggregate, right?
In aggregate,
Right.
yes.
Right.
It's all the votes.
Correct.
Right.
It's all the member towns. Yeah. So
Correct, but the same thing is true at their town meeting, if you will, like the voters at that meeting can increase the budget or decrease it when they're there. And then it goes on ballot too, and then it can still get voted down. They have to start the process all over
Yeah.
again.
It's like an RSU four, what they went
Right,
through
right.
last year.
But
Four
those-
meetings.
That's
those-
nasty.
Yeah.
Those that are open meetings are. Nobody votes, or very few people will vote,
Right, no, understood.
so
Yeah.
they're,
Well, it's kind of a stacked audience.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah.
Which is why you put it in front of all the voters and not just for, you know, the folks who are willing to go spend a couple of hours and wait around to the end of a budget, a very dry and not very interesting budget meeting to, you know, cast a vote.
raise your card.
Right, that's pretty much only union members. Something to think about for the town manager, maybe the staff to be considering. We discussed this when we sent out the bills last October. That perhaps we could come up with some formatting changes to the bills so that it's a little more apparent that what we are billing for is 2/3 RSU and 1/10 county, and then 20-something% of actual municipal expense. It says town of Monmouth very clearly on the header of the bill. And perhaps we could just make some changes within the law to present that in a little more even-handed way that is representative of what it is that the taxpayers are actually paying.
Or a stuffer in the bill that breaks that down.
Could be separate pages,
Right.
sure.
Cause I think it would be hard to change how the bills are printed, but it may not be as hard to say, you know, your percentage, you know, your $100, based on $100, you know, $87 goes toward the school, you know, $3, I mean.
Yeah, there's a little section there that it already does that. But the top of the bill, when you open it, it's from the town of Monmouth. And
Right.
it says Town of Monmouth Municipal Charges, right? So, I mean, even something as simple as changing the header on the bill that would say,
RSU too.
it could say, you know, school, county, and municipal charges for taxpayers in the town of Monmouth. I mean, that would be a little more reasonable than to put, you know, the entire property tax bill on the shoulders of the municipality that's forced to send the bill.
There are certain requirements that have to be on there. A lot of it is kind of up to what it is. So sort of the format of it is pretty standard. I kind of hesitate to like move the boxes around too much because people are used to it across jurisdictions. They kind of all look the same.
Can we change the
We
header?
can't send them out separately. I know that MMA tries to do that all the time. We try to get the RSUs to bill themselves and get the county to do their own like they do in other states. But that never goes anywhere because they stack up against the towns and schools don't want to have to collect their own money.
Well, it's efficient. But it doesn't mean that the header on the bill has to say town of Monmouth.
I don't believe it does.
So the header on the bill could say RSU 2, comma, Kennebec County, comma, and Monmouth municipal charges.
We have plenty of time to think about it because we won't send another bill till next fall.
Yeah.
Are there any bills that deal with the school funding formula?
Yes, but it mostly has to do with with how they're gonna fund school construction. So,
Not how they're gonna,
well, they do. Well, here's the catch that I've learned from being on the school construction commission now. Is that the state under statute can only borrow it can only carry $150 million of debt for school construction. So so like this year, they got 70 applications for new schools. They're gonna be able to fund between 5 and 7. So we're way, most of the schools were all built at the same time and they're all falling apart at the same time. They were all built with federal money back in the 60s and 70s, and now they're all too old and they're falling apart all over the place, and there's absolutely no plan to deal with it. So they can borrow $150 million. At any given time, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 projects in the pipeline. But once they approve it, they have to basically encumber that 150 million. So there might be 50, 60 million sitting on the table year after year after year that's not doing anything because they've already approved projects 2, 3 years ago that are still in local planning board approval, permitting, DEP, site, all that stuff. So it kind of eats into that 150 all the time. So you're never really getting $150 million worth of projects. $150 million comes out of the total EPS. It's part of the 55%. So, for example, while the state is paying the debt service on the Monmouth Memorial School, they're reducing the amount of EPS funding for every other town in the state to pay for that school. So when you have a new school in your community, you're basically getting an unfair share of the 55% because they use the EPS money to fund the school construction. So if you're a community that doesn't have a school that's currently indebted, you're helping to pay for the Monmouth Memorial School. Right, so you're subsidizing, or Auburn that just built the biggest, most expensive high school the state's ever built. That money is flowing through EPS and they're getting a bigger chunk of the EPS funding formula, and it's coming out of everybody else's hide. So the problem is the DOE thinks that it should be that way, and everybody that's either in the school, on the school admin side or the teacher union side, everybody else thinks that's a terrible idea, but DOE thinks it's a great idea, they think it's fair. So as they're trying to get their head around how they're gonna fund all these schools, that seems to be the big number right now that they're trying to figure out, is how do we deal with that 150 million that's eating into EPS every year? That should be probably used on school services. And I know there'll be other EPS bills, because there always are. But the school funding, the school construction money is the big issue right now in front of them, and the governor's has appointed this commission, which I sit on, to try to deal with this. So you've got all kind of the heavy hitters in school construction and DOE are all on this commission, and they're trying to figure out how to do it. My job is just to make sure that it doesn't get dumped on the property tax. I don't care how they, I'm not an education person. I'm the MMA person on there. So my comments are constantly, you better find a steady source of funding from the state, because if you don't, it's going to dump on the property tax, and it's unacceptable. Like you can't just, because right now they pay 100% of school construction up to the standards. And then if you want to put in a pool or something, then that's local option cost. So the question is obviously we can't come anywhere near the number that they need. They need $1 billion a year to probably, deal with this. That's not going to happen. So do you reduce the 100% to like 80%, make the towns pick it up? Are we talking about going back to when Baldacci was in there and forcing school consolidation? Like you can't build a new school unless you can make it X size. So these are all the things that are all kicking around, and no one has an answer yet, but we just started the work. So I don't know. So it's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's going to be more focused around how do we deal with EPS and fund school construction, because there's a huge need.
Glad you opened that can.
Can we move on to other, part?
Amazon Capital Services credit card, the majority of that is 2 computers for the IREC, $2,715. Androscoggin Bank, $127,053. Academy loan. Axon Enterprises, It's a taser pit, that's the payment for the tasers for the PD, $4,551. Baker Electric, $1,763 to repair lights at the transfer station. Ben's uniform, vests for the PD, $2,912. Brittany Blair, the agent commission for selling 21 Wilson Pond Road, $1,750. Blue Rock Earthworks, $3,082. Materials transport. I think that CMP is gonna be over $1,000, but it doesn't add up nicely for me, so I'll just say CMP for various accounts. Eco Main, $2,143. Shipping fees, $5,116 for Fabian Oil for number 2 heating fuel for various town buildings. Thermal Industries demo removal for the transfer station, $3,800. ART appraisal, the first payment for the revaluation, $15,589. Rochelle Consulting, our TIF consultant, $1,310. Lawson Products, $2,164 for hydraulic couplers for the transfer station, for the compactors. Main Technology Group, $3,644. It's our monthly usage, and the firewall at the town office failed, so we had to buy. Monmouth Sanitary District, $1,705. New England Salt Company, $2,713. Salt, obviously. Isabel, our planner, $1,024. Try to say her last name. State of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles, $4,941. State of Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, $5,098. For a total of $206,617.48.
I make a motion, we approve the fiscal year 24-25 warrant number 12.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ken, second by Chris to approve warrant number 12 for fiscal year 24-25. All those in favor?
Mark votes yes.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, because Justin wasn't, I didn't have this on my list and you were doing for Bob. Are there more properties ready for us to start that wonderful process
So,
again?
Yes. Sarah has one that she would like to bring to you. The next couple are serious in arrears, but there are people in them. So if you're ready to tackle those, we can do that. I have about 6 or 7 properties to bring to you at your next meeting to do write-offs. They're mobile homes that have disappeared. One of them we think is a ghost lot, which means that it's a lot on the tax map that doesn't seem to belong to anybody. So nobody.
Free land?
Yeah.
It belongs to somebody, but nobody's survey or deed seems to line up properly in an area, and they're usually like in the middle of nowhere, like they're not touching
Yeah.
any roads or anything, so that it's probably that one of the deeds isn't correct, so it ends up with like this dead space in the middle. But when there's a lot there, the assessor taxes it to unknown or whatever because it's there.
How do we deal with that?
You just have to write it off, and we basically assume it's a ghost lot at that point, because we don't have a survey or anything to figure it out. Until one of the neighbors does a survey, it'll continue to be there. There's no good way to fix those things.
Okay.
Because we don't know who it belongs to. You can't just add 2 acres to somebody's
Oh, by the way.
property that,
Is it really that big, like 2 acres?
no, it's probably not. I don't know exactly the size of it. I haven't tried to figure it out.
How much land does a ghost need?
Yes.
So, if you could, I think we're ready
Yeah, I think,
to move on those, and we can look at them one by one.
Yeah.
But if you could give us an idea of to what degree people are in arrears, that would certainly
There's also the
help us
lot.
understand how quickly we need to move.
It's also the lot down near the Anabescook Dam on the opposite side of the road, on the corner. So if you're heading towards Winthrop.
Yeah.
Get down there on the left-hand side, there's the house there with the fence. There's a house right on the corner. or appears to be on the corner opposite of the boat launch parking lot.
Yeah, Sanborn Road and one
Correct.
35.
Yep. On the other side of the fence between their house and the road was a piece of property that they inherited. It's a small sliver of land. And I had been told that there may be interest in the town keeping that to add additional parking to for the hand launch across the way. So that's a question. We would have to survey that and have an independent appraiser value it. And we would have to compensate the people that haven't paid their taxes. If it's beyond the amount the taxes are due now. In the old days, we would have just kept it. But now we would have to figure out what it's worth, subtract out the taxes that are due, and then pay them the difference. But I don't know if there's an interest in keeping that piece. or not.
The one where the barn's falling in?
I'm not sure if there's,
No. That's on the upper side of the
Yeah.
street from the boat launch.
right, it's on the other side of the street.
It's on the other side. It's on the same side as the boat.
No, it's on the opposite side of the street. It's on the other
It's
side.
on the left hand. So if you come down Sanborn Road and the dam is on your
Right.
right, it's on your left. If you're facing 135, it's on your left.
People who live there have made it very clear that they don't care what happens to it and they are never gonna pay the taxes.
There's a barn there.
Yeah.
It's
Falling apart.
Correct. So I don't know if there's we can either try to bid it out. I think it's an unbuildable lot. I don't think it's large enough to do anything with.
Minimum lot size.
It's really worth more to those people that inherited it, that live right there, but they don't want to pay taxes on it to do it. So I don't know if you want me to ignore it or would you want to keep it or what do you want to do with it?
At some point, it's going to become a safety hazard. Like the barn's gonna fall into the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can do a dangerous buildings on it too, but we're still gonna be in the same boat that we can't take it unless we compensate them.
Why don't we put it on the agenda and we can have a conversation? Yeah, used to be.
Or used to be from.
Yeah, because I guess what we need to know is what those amounts are, what's owed. We got it.
Yeah, and yeah, we need to make sure that the taxpayers are made whole.
Yeah, I just kind of need to know for me to figure out the financial situation on it, I would need to get a feel for whether you want me to go engage an appraiser to come up with what it's worth, because I can't tell you how much we'd have to pay for it if I don't know what it's worth.
Let me go noodle that one
Sure.
and we'll talk about it next meeting maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just give me I won't put it on the agenda for the next meeting, but you can give me some direction about which way you want me to go, because I don't think it's really that helpful to have a discussion until we actually know, what it might cost to have an appraisal done and all that. So you have a full picture to make a decision on, that's all. Make sense?
This morning I went to the transfer station and was told that I had to put my refuse in the recycle. Something wasn't working. Did that word get to you?
I hadn't heard that yet, no. I didn't see Tony today, but when he comes in, when he has his discussion with you, he's gonna have, we're gonna have to have a hard discussion about what you want to do down there. That if we're gonna keep doing everything we're doing down there, we're gonna need some serious money. Those two compactors are done. One of them is completely gone. The floor's gone out of it. The other two are constantly breaking down, and these are not inexpensive pieces of equipment. They're $150,000 to $250,000 a piece.
The diesel motor, because it's so cold.
For the hydraulics.
It won't run.
Yeah.
Oh, but that might be.
Yeah.
Well, just change the weather.
So what we basically do when they tell you to throw the trash in the recycle, we're basically giving up on that being a recycling container for that, because it's now contaminated, it's useless.
Yeah.
So,
Be burned.
so,
I went around lunchtime.
Was it lunchtime? I
Well,
went
maybe
about-
warmed up.
I went about 10:30.
yeah, warmed up to 12. It's better than -9. Yeah.
My pipes let go. No, it's fine. They were frozen last night, but unfortunately, no damage.
Oh, good. That's good.
had to wait until noon time to get the water to flow. I would be interested, and I don't know how my colleagues feel here, about taking a fresh look at what we are charging for a fee schedule at the transfer station and inviting Tony to come up with maybe a survey of the surrounding areas so that we're not a magnet for people bringing things to Monmouth because they know it's only $10 for a TV or $2 for a tire when it's, more elsewhere. So,
He's already calculated the amount of money. He's been working on this, getting ready for you guys to have this discussion. He can already tell you exactly how much money we're losing
Yep.
just from July 1st, how much money that we basically, that the taxpayers are subsidizing people throwing away their stuff.
yeah, well, I mean, it's a balancing act. We don't want to be incentivizing people to toss stuff by the side of the road, but by the same token, we don't want to be subsidizing, the surrounding communities by offering bargain disposal rates. And by the way, that also works in reverse. I was contacted by a constituent who said, "Ken, it's ridiculous that you guys would charge $5 for a carpet." And I go, $5 for a carpet? And he goes, yeah, I was so pissed. Sorry, I was so upset that I took it to I don't know, some town by the Forks and they took it for free. And I go, the Monmouth taxpayers, thank you for bringing it all the way up to the Forks. That is exactly why we charge $5 for a carpet. And if we're not charging enough for stuff.
Yeah.
Compared to the surrounding towns, then we should be. Shame on us.
Yeah, right now, we're not even charging enough to have it hauled off, let alone the tipping fees to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're completely out in left field when it comes to our
Yeah.
fee schedule.
And the same would go for, if we can figure out a reasonable way to do contractor waste. I would be in support of that too. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Isabel's doing a great job. I went to the comprehensive plan meeting
Yeah.
that they had this week. And there was 8 to 10 people there and she did a very good job of.
I'm gonna give you an assignment for next meeting.
Oh, gee, I'm busy.
It's like the old days.
Learn how to pronounce Isabel's last name.
She's told me twice and I still can't do
Okay,
it.
Don't worry about it, because she's getting married at Kempston Hall this summer, so she might change it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All
All in
those in
favor?
favor?
So you're
I'm